memories, songs from the past. Musical memories, songs that will last. Musical memories, songs from above. Musical memories, songs of God's love. Welcome to Musical Memories. I'm Martha Garvin, and my special guest today is Jonathan Welch. Welcome to Musical Memories, Jonathan.
Thanks, Martha. Great to be with you today.
Jonathan's been with us the last few days, and Sunday morning he attended our church with us. We go to a very small evangelical church, and of course we all wanted to hear Jonathan sing. He chose, what a wonderful song he chose, Then I Met Jesus, and I knew you would want to hear him do that today for us. So Jonathan, Then I Met Jesus.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting when we sat around Saturday night talking about, well, what do you want to sing tomorrow morning? And it's amazing how that song just popped into my mind. And, of course, it was written by Byron Carmody when he was 12 or 13 years old. And I remember my mother telling me that when I was just a little boy. And my folks went to college with Byron, so there's a close friendly tie there to the song. But I remember growing up and hearing my folks sing this song in duet just for years and years, all through my childhood. And it's special to me because of that, too. And the message is ever so timely and poignant today. And I'm just thrilled to be able to sing it and glad that it came to my mind among all the other songs that we could have chosen today. I wander o'er life's stormy road, no hope in sight for me. My eyes were blinded by my tears. I could not shelter see. Then I met Jesus, wonderful friend. He loved and saved me, love without end. Now I am walking close to his side. Storms may surround me. In him I hide. I needed one to share my cares, to lead when dark the way. I prayed for one to take my hand and guide me every day. Then I met Jesus, wonderful friend. He loved and saved me, love without end. Now I am walking close to his side. Storms may surround me. In him I hide.
What a marvelous song. And John, you know your voice keeps getting better and better. God has blessed you. It's so good to have you here in Chicago again, and we're always privileged for you to come and stay at our house. We count it a real joy. Now, I know you've appeared in Chicago many times. Tell us a little bit about your history here.
Yeah, well, it is always a pleasure to come back here, not only because Chicago is a great city to my mind, but always to be with your family, and it's one of my homes away from home all around the world in my Christian family.
You're kind of our oldest kid.
I feel like it's easy to feel one of the Garvin kids. I pop into Chicago for your listening audience to explain. I sing with the Lyric Opera in Chicago, and I've appeared many times with the Grant Park Symphony in their summer concert series, and also at Orchestra Hall.
Sure.
So I get to come in for those great professional engagements in the world of, well, I don't like to use the word secular music, but you understand what I mean, maybe, as opposed to, I'm certainly when I'm coming in and singing an oratorio, Handel's Messiah or Mendelssohn's Elijah or whatever it may be, there certainly isn't anything secular about that to my mind. All is to the glory of God. But you know what I mean, as opposed to just singing directly in the church.
Sure.
But my musical heritage and roots, of course, are in the church, and I have to say that's where I learned to sing. Many people ask me about breathing and different techniques of singing, and I say, well, I really learned that singing in the church when I was a kid. My folks studied music in college, and at a Christian college.
Started in Sunday school.
That's right. And I went to the same, I said my first public appearance singing was in church, and for which I'm very grateful. Sure. And, you can never get away from that, nor would I want to. People say, well, now that you're quasi-famous and singing in major opera houses all over the world is, sacred music just kind of take a back seat. And I have to say, not at all. I mean, I wouldn't quit singing any more than I'd quit loving my children or anything else. It's just a part of my life.
Sure.
But just as far as my profession, the major occupation of my time, of course, is singing that classical literature.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about your European connection. You mentioned the opera houses there, and I know you've appeared in many there, just a many.
Right, sure. Well, my back to, of course, Chicago, I came right from my student days at Olivet Nazarene College in Kankakee, Illinois. I mean, that's only 50 miles away, up to Chicago one time to sing for the chorus on a dare, really, from a classmate of mine. It was kind of almost a prank or a joke, but I mean, I sang seriously, and I was just flabbergasted that they hired me. I knew like 2 arias, but that was an exciting beginning of an adventure. That I sang in the chorus there for a year. My wife Ilona sang with me there, and then the year after that, I was an apprentice artist there, again still singing in the chorus. And then the winds changed and our direction changed in terms of our musical pursuits. And well, I mean, you were a vital part of our ministry, that Ilona and I traveled and sang all over America and Canada, singing in revivals and camp meetings and sacred concerts for years, really, till our kids got school age. We settled down in San Diego. Then I began doing opera competitions, and the direction focused back on opera. We weren't free to travel like we did anymore with the kids, but we had that ministry that we're so grateful for, and we see that as a vital part in God's working in our lives. Sure. And I mean, it's still there. We love to sing the gospel any chance we get, every chance we get.
And one thing I appreciate so much, like I said, we go to a small church. And you're always willing to sing, even for a very small group. And I do know there are a lot of churches around here to pay you big money.
Well, and
sing.
And that was our home church when we were here in Chicago, those many, many years ago, and that neighborhood in which we lived, and we were newlywed kids and a lot of sentimental ties, but always, I want to be where God's people are. I'm comfortable there,
Sure. And one of the songs that Jonathan sings that blesses all of us, and I never get tired of hearing him sing it, is My Wonderful Lord.
I have found a deep peace that I never had known, and the joy this world could not afford, since I yielded control of my body and soul to my wonderful Lord, my wonderful Lord, my wonderful shall be ordered by thee, that my will be in perfect accord with thine own sovereign will, thy desires to fulfill. My wonderful, wonderful Lord, my wonderful Lord, my wonderful Lord, my angels and seraphs in heaven adore.
Remember just a wonderful story about that song, John. I'd love for you to share it with us today.
Yeah, one of the many wonderful and bizarre adventures of Jonathan Welch. I was doing some guest appearances for Jimmy Swaggart, singing in crusades all over America, and was flying back from one particular engagement. And while I was in the airport waiting to board the plane, I noticed a man sitting there, and I thought, man, I know that guy from somewhere. And I'm trying to remember if I was flying to Tulsa or from Tulsa. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But anywhere.
Flying
the airport,
somewhere.
they all run together after a while. These airports. But I thought, I'm sure I recognize that guy. And when I got on the plane, lo and behold, we were seated very close to each other. And I said, I know that I recognize you from somewhere, and I think I know who you are. And this man doesn't have a shy bone in his body. And he said, well, probably you do. He said, my name's Demas Shakarian.
Oh,
and
sure.
I'm the head of Christian businessmen, and I'd seen him on the telecast,
Sure.
And so I introduced myself and told him that I had just finished this crusade with Jimmy and was flying back home. And like I said, the man doesn't have a shy bone in his body, and we sat there and visited, and the joys of walking with the Lord and all the good things that God had done in our lives, and he asked me about my career and that sort of thing, and just at that time I was beginning to win opera competitions. I hadn't really, taken off in my career as I am now, but those were some of the aspirations that I had, and he said, well, that's great. We want to give our best to the Lord and be a good steward with our talents and all that. And this guy, like I said, not a shy bone, he stood up in the airplane. We'd already taken off, and we were at cruising altitude, so the seatbelt light was off, and he said, he stood up and he said, ladies and gentlemen, he said, we're really privileged today to have flying with us a Christian opera singer. And he said, you just haven't lived until you've heard this man sing. He said, wouldn't you like to hear this man sing us a song? And I thought, oh man, and people started, kind of politely applauding. And what were they going to do? They were a captive audience, No, I think I'll go climb out the window. And I sure felt like I wanted to, get a parachute and bail. But I have my unshy moments too, And so I thought, okay, yeah, no. Believe it or not, you've known me long enough to know that. So I said, well, okay. So I started in with a Neapolitan song.
Oh.
And just and the stewardesses stuck their head. They were back getting the meal ready, and they stuck their head around the corner like, oh dear Lord, there's a wild one on board here, and are we going to have a problem? But just a few measures, of course, into the song. They realized, wow, this is, really a legitimate talent person here, or whatever, that's on board. And for whatever insane reason, this guy's got him singing, Well, I finished that song, and the audience, the passengers on the plane, they were the captive audience. It was a big flight. There were over 200 people on that plane. They just burst into thunderous applause. And he said, that was beautiful. It was like he was emceeing his show, And he said, Jonathan, sing us a song now that goes back to your roots and something, from your faith. And I was happy to do that. And I sang the song that we just did, My Wonderful Lord. It just popped into my mind, and I started singing it a cappella. And, everybody applauded, and when it was done and all, and I said, you're a wild and crazy guy. God bless you. This was really fun. And, of course, had many associations with Demas after that. My wife and I sang for various conventions and things that they had through that first encounter. But 2 women came to us after the meal was served. I'll never forget it. It was a neat experience, just to share in that and to sing for those people. But these 2 women came, and they had tears in their eyes, and they said, we're on our way to our father's funeral. And when we started off this day, coming to the airport and boarding the plane and the whole thing, we just want you to know our hearts were broken, and we felt like our world was totally devastated. And she said, I prayed specifically this morning, God, I just need a special blessing from you today and some special strength. And I believe in you, but today I just wish you'd give me some kind of special sign to show me that you know about us. And she said, I couldn't ask for anything more out of the ordinary than for somebody to stand up and sing a song that would minister to my soul on a flight before I even got to that funeral. And she said, I know this was of God. And that's the kind of thing that, not that everything God does is so sort of spectacular and flamboyant like something like that. And I don't believe that it is. Many of the things that God does, we never really know. In His mercy, we never know.
And who'd ever think 40,000 feet above the world?
40,000 feet in the air, and who knows, maybe who else that might have ministered to that day or whatever. But I really believe, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the Demas was prompted to do that, and that I was willing to go along with it. Because people ask me to do things. Oh, sing me a note, and I say, oh, come on. If I was a bricklayer, would you say, oh, you're a bricklayer, make a little wall here or something, But just something about it, I just went with it. Something said, yeah, do this. And my heart was beating a mile a minute. Stand up in an airplane, it's like they're going to arrest us, and the federal marshals are going to pick us up at the end of the flight. But so that song will never be the same to me again after.
Nor to us.
I'm glad you asked me about that story. I didn't know I was going to react like that.
And I'm so glad you did, because we never know when God's promises are going to be fulfilled. Yeah. When we ask, we never know, whether it's in an airplane
you bet.
or wherever. Thank you so much. Last Sunday morning, I played for an offertory in our church, Oh, Love That Will Not Let Me Go. Jonathan began to sing along with me as I played, and maybe just he and I heard. But I asked him to do it for us today.
I cried so much during that last song. I hope my voice doesn't go out on me here.
Not let me go. I rest my weary soul on thee. I give thee back the life I owe, that in thine ocean depths its flow may reach a
I was afraid this was going to happen. I cried so much during that last song where I thought my voice was cracking. I'd get real concerned about that if we were singing for, some
orchestra hall, perhaps.
or whatever kind of thing. But we know that happens when the Spirit...
That's what Musical Memories is all about.
Touches you when you do a song.
Songs, yes.
Remembering that last story and also just singing this song. You asked me to share my testimony sometime in the course of the radio broadcast. And I really do it with every song that I sing, but this song just really touches my heart, and I might as well go ahead and testify now because my voice is just cracking while I try to sing anyway. The love of God is so far-reaching. His love just never will let us go. I wouldn't be alive today, I don't believe, if it wasn't for the love of God. And I'm so grateful that God loves us in ways that sometimes we never expected that He would, and does things for us that, in my background, in my childhood, with church, everything seemed to be, an issue of sin or not sin and guilt and all that, all kind of thing that sometimes you can fall into, or maybe that's your perception of things. And as I've lived my life down through these years, I realize that God has shown me so many things and helped me with so many things in my life that weren't really necessarily even spiritual issues. Maybe deep emotional hurts. Some of us. Yeah. We're talking to 97th percentile at least, people who came from families or life situations where to one extent or to a certain extent they were dysfunctional and had problems. And some of us more serious than others. And I'm so glad that God is able to meet our needs right where we are, all of those needs. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll all be met at an altar of prayer. It may be that that's the place where we'll get the courage and the strength to seek out counseling or whatever it is, therapy, or who knows what it is we need in our life that God can give us, I love to say, beauty for ashes. And as I surrender my life to God and live my life one day at a time in His will, I can just count on Him to take care of everything that needs to be taken care of. For me, the simplest prayer and yet the most profound credo of my life is the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Sure. And there are things in our life that we can't change. And you can't always change maybe who raised you, or what experiences you had in your life, or what kind of a childhood you had, or some traumatic thing that happened in your life. You have no control over those things. And God help you if you're trying to control them. You can't. Serenity for those things that we can't control. Courage to change the things I can. And the wisdom to know the difference. And God has helped me down through my life with all these things. And the older I get, the more tolerant I get, and the more I realize the power that God has for us in all these areas of our life. You may be out there today and you may love the Lord and be a Christian and know that the Lord's your Savior, and yet you may be totally insane these days because you're a compulsive overeater. Yeah. And you think, oh, why can't I? And that may be something that you really need to surrender to God and get some help on it, and there are programs for that sort of thing that even though they're not, on church on Sunday morning, they're provided for us by God. And I just really believe in living in the real world, as an adult, that that's really the way God works in our lives. And I think of the psalmist David when he said, the lions have fallen to me in pleasant places. I've had some hard knocks and some fiery trials. And even times when I thought, God, where are you? God was working. God was working through painful lessons. And yeah, you bet. That's love. God's love that we can trust totally. Yeah. I'll try one more verse of this. How poignant this verse is.
O joy that seekest me through pain, I cannot close my heart to thee. I trace the rainbow through the rain and feel the promise is not vain, that morn shall tearless be.
Beautiful song and beautiful testimony, John. This is Martha Reed Garvin, and you've shared the last 30 minutes with Jonathan Welch and I. Now, John, I like to do duets.
Yeah, I do too.
And I brought one.
Great. What have we got?
You're the opera singer, and I'm wife and mother, right? And I brought Wonderful, Wonderful Jesus.
Oh, let's do it.
I'll see you next week.
Born among cattle in poverty sore, living in meekness by Galilee shore, dying in shame as the wicked one swore. Jesus, wonderful Lord, wonderful, wonderful Jesus, He is my friend to the end. He gave Himself to Jesus, wonderful wonderful, wonderful Jesus, He is my friend to the end. He gave Himself to redeem me.